Welcome to Good Money Guide. Today we're talking to Ben Chemla. He's the CEO and founder of Shares.io, a investment app that hopes to build a community around investors to empower them and hopefully make them better investors. So we're going to have a chat with Ben. We're going to find out why he set up the company, who Shares.io is targeted at, and how you can use it to get the most out of your investment journey. So Ben, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Richard, for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's always nice to talk to CEOs and founders so we can get from the horse's mouth what you're trying to achieve and who you're trying to achieve it for. Really, is the main question. So why don't we kick off with that? Who is Shares.io for? Who's your ideal customer? Who have you set it up for?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Back when I had the idea, I live in the US, and I was, a heavy user of trading platform, investing in different types of assets, which includes anything from like stocks, ETF, up until cryptos. But I was really lacking the right education. I've always been an entrepreneur, a tech entrepreneur. I got lucky to be well educated and go to I had a business degree, but never really learned about finance. And I've been very lost, in picking the right stocks to invest in, and had always the feeling that I was late in getting the right information. So my first idea with shares was to combine a very safe financial service, so a very safe platform in which all assets, all funds, all different types of products, liquid will be offered to our users. But I wanted, in addition, to provide them with the right feeds, with the right informations. And it's like as if Twitter had a baby with Robinhood, kind of, so you can see what's going on in real time and see your friend's portfolio and moves. And also, without leaving the platform, you can make these decisions for yourself.
Okay, so that's quite a good analogy. Twitter meets Robinhood. There's quite a few social trading platforms bounding about. So let's just cover two points on that. Sort of one is, do you think retail investors are the sort of best people to help other investors trade? And where do you think you sit within the marketplace for, when you look at sort of DIY platforms like Hargreaves Lansdown, and then the sort of execution only platforms, where do you sit in the investment landscape? So let's just start with the sort of social trading aspect of it. About do you think retail traders are the best place to get information from, and how to invest, and sort of specifically, how have you seen your community do that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of questions in your questions. So I would say a couple of things.
I do ramble quite a bit. So just like, we'll just try and pin it down. Let's pin it down to one question. How is your community helping other investors be better investors?
Listen, Richard, we live in a world extremely social. Everything we do, the restaurants you're going to book tonight, the shoes you're going to buy tomorrow, like everything you do is impacted by other people's actions. You look at reviews online before making this kind of decision, before booking an hotel. You eventually will like take a picture of the shoes in the store and send them to your friend or your wife to get her opinion on whether or not you should go for it. If tomorrow you buy an apartment, you will probably ask a friend who has some expertise in real estate in order to identify whether or not it's a good opportunity. Finance is no exception. And I guess like for years, it has been a lonely game. People were like just doing finance on their own, not necessarily like sharing ideas with their friends and close contact. And my strong idea, insight, is that it has significantly changed. And now people want to help each other. It's just better together. Like I have my expertise. I'm more like about tech, for instance. I was actually lacking a lot of expertise in regards to like cryptos. And my idea here is that I can support people on things that I know, and I can eventually hope for them to help me understand things that I don't know. And this is just what Shares is about. And I believe that there is a power of community that will help us all together to learn. And the discovery experience is so much better when you can share ideas with other people. Now, obviously, it's also dangerous. So the goal with shares was to find the perfect in between to protect our users, but also like provide them with these new features and tools to help them in their investing journey. So if you don't accept my contact request, if we don't know each other, you're not going to be able to see my portfolio, and I'm not going to be able to see your portfolio. In addition to what, no matter what, we do not share the amount of money you have invested and the amount of money I have invested. It's more about what are you up to? You know, what have you invested in lately, and what your allocation of the allocation of your portfolio looks like. So that is what we do at Shares, and it's actually happens to be super efficient, and people are quite happy with it.
Yeah, I think it's great actually. I mean, because I suppose there's two things that people trade and invest off. One is sentiment. You know, it's a huge driver. You know, people like to, you know, follow the trend, and we've run sentiment indicators for years. I think, you know, the longest one we had dates back to the 60s when I was at Investors Intelligence, and it's a fascinating insight into when people become ultra bullish. That's when you don't want to be buying. So do you have any, it'd actually be really interesting, do you have any analytics or anecdotes around, you know, a stock that's been talked up heavily, or something, a bit of stimulus that people have seen from your platform and done well out of?
Yeah, actually, so we have introduced in the French and European markets a feature named Premium Investors. So basically, we showcase in Europe some success stories, right? Like profiles that have been doing quite well. It's very objective, you know. You have the name, you have the portfolio, and the whole story. And so, if someone has been doing like 40% plus return over the last 6 months, these are like real data, okay?
Yep.
And so, by just like showcasing this profile in the explore section of our application, what we have seen and been able to measure is that all users that started to follow these profiles after the first like follow request, and once they have begun to like, you know, follow this profile, their portfolio started to go better, you know, and they started to do better moves, and
Okay.
and eventually make moves like in mirror to more experienced investors transactions, and it had a positive impact on their portfolio. And for me, I'm under a mission to democratize finance for sure, but I'm under a mission to make sure that I'm doing my best to protect my users and provide them with tools that will help them do better, right? So the goal is not to create a gambling social platform allowing people to make like to take bigger risk, you know. So that is something that is very important, and that we like at Share, seeing these results being positive.
Okay. Well, I mean, stimulus is another huge thing for investors as well. If you put ideas in front of them, they tend to think about them a bit more. You know, they don't just follow the crowd like sheep. It makes them pay a bit more attention. But actually, as these people grow their portfolios and grow their followings, do you give them the opportunity to monetize that like other social trading platforms do, or is it very much a step back from that, where you just give people the opportunity to look at other people's portfolios without having that sort of slight conflict of interest of people trying to get people to follow them?
No, actually, we do not help them monetize that for the moment. Not saying that it will never happen. It could, but ultimately, here is the goal: is, I mean, for sure, some of these people, they have like a separate business, you know, like they have a newsletter on Substack, or they have different things, and they see in Shares an opportunity eventually to grow their following, and thus attract potential followers and customers to their other businesses, which I'm totally fine with, as long as the way they use the platform respect our charts and guidelines, and they do not like push people to make bad decisions.
And how's business going in general? I've obviously looked through your LinkedIn and, you know, employment history, for want of a better word, and you're clearly sort of a very experienced fintech entrepreneur. Have you found growing the business harder than you thought within the financial space, or has your growth been on target, or pleasantly easier than you thought?
No, I think it's been a very interesting journey. This is my fourth company, but the first time I'm doing something in fintech. I was previously the founder of a company named Stuart, which I sold to DPD, the parent company, I mean, an entity owned by the French Post in logistics. And so this is the first time for me doing something in fintech. But I mean, I must say I've been surprised by the regulatory aspect of it. It took us like quite some time to get the proper licenses in Europe. But now it's done. We got approved and received our agreement by the French regulator, AMF and ACPR, a couple of months ago. So this is fantastic. And it is really like allowing us to launch all European countries now. So super exciting. So this is the surprise I got. But that being said, yeah, I mean, I'm experienced in growing company and growing teams quite fast. We got lucky to onboard very early on the process, people from great companies such as Revolut or Wise, alongside with social apps such as Bumble. So we have this very experienced team that came almost from day one, and it has been fantastic. It's been fantastic, and so far so good. Business is doing good. The French launch that is just happening as we speak is pretty good. The metrics that we are having at the moment in France are very impressive, and so obviously more to come.
Okay, I suppose actually this brings us quite nicely back to the second part of my first waffly question, which was, where do you fit within? I mean, for example, how big's your community, and how are you stealing those customers away from the incumbents?
Yeah, I think the UK market is different from the French market and from other European markets. I believe that the UK is more saturated. There is a lot of the offering is already like quite huge. We do have a differentiator in the UK market, which allow us to attract a lot of users. But in the UK, we have seen like more like a younger audience than the one we are having at the moment in France. So typically an audience that will like make more transaction, but with maybe a lower like average transaction value. But it is about to change. In France, we have more like intermediaries, experts, experienced investors. So it's a bit different at the moment, but it tends to change. What I've learned, I would say, over the last year is that one way to differentiate, and this is something we are hardly working on at the moment, is you have to integrate like features that are like extremely local, such as tax wrappers, for instance. So we are currently like in the process of like going live with our ISA account for the UK market, as well as PEA for France. This is an important differentiator from other platforms that are coming from either the US or from Germany that do not provide these services, which are key if you want to really help people sincerely and seriously considering that your platform as a place where they can grow their wealth in the long term. So yeah. So basically, what I've learned is that it's a long-term game, and rather than I want it to be everywhere, we really are under a mission to be number one in France and among the leaders in the UK. We want to focus on these two markets.
That's great. And actually talking about local markets, that is an important point. I mean, everybody, wants to invest a bit, but as they grow, they do need those tax wrappers and access to the local market. So let's just have a chat about sort of local markets and FX at the moment. Is it just US stocks you're offering access to? Can UK investors invest in UK stocks and ETFs and bonds and so on? What's the plan for market access?
So in the UK at the moment is offering on the platform only US stocks and fractional shares. This is something that we have been able to launch like quite fast. While in France and Europe, as we speak, we do offer much more. We offer ETF, fractional US stocks, and cryptos. So this is about to change also in the UK. So currently working on offering a similar list of assets to the UK market.
Well, everybody in the everybody in the UK just wants to invest in America nowadays. Anyway, it's actually
Yeah, that's true.
you talk to most analysts, and very few of them are actually bullish UK. You ask for a trade, and they're like
Yeah.
sell Europe, buy US. But I don't know. I think the US is looking a bit toppy. At the moment, and I do think there's still growth in the particularly in the smaller cap markets in the UK. So I think a broad range of access is really important for UK markets. So how do you guys then make money?
Like a lot of platform, obviously it has evolved. We do not operate any PMON for order flow, so there is no kickback expected from shares, as this is something that obviously we really aim to be transparent. We want like to have a very clear and understandable business model for our users. So yeah, so at the moment we charge 1 GBP in the UK flat transaction fee per transaction. So and in Europe it's €1. In addition, we are just about to announce in Europe a couple of subscriptions program that we are putting live alongside with investment plan. So you will be able to like invest in up to like 20 different assets on a recurring basis, so weekly or monthly, as part of the plan. And you have like different like subscription models that are about to be introduced. So I strongly believe in nowadays that the whole market has shifted from like high frequency platform. The frequency obviously now is much lower. So the shift is from like a lot of transactions, the small ones, to like less transaction, but users are expecting more financial services and opportunities. So this is what we're working on at the moment, offering more for people who really want to consider like shares at a place where they can grow their wealth.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because if you look at social media for investment advice, if you look at anyone, a while ago it was all pump and dump, GameStop shares, and there was lots of trading and speculation. But eventually TikTok, I don't know why, but TikTok seems to have filtered it down to just buy a Vanguard fund on a regular basis and you'll be fine. And there's loads of clips of Buffett saying just buy an S&P tracker, and that's all you really need to do. And I think that's probably quite a good lesson. So let's just, I mean, we've got 10 minutes left. Let's just talk about your journey so far, best and worst parts of running shares so far. What's been the best part?
Best part was this is a business that brought me back to Europe from the US, where I lived 4 years. I'm super excited to be back in Europe, like building this, bouncing between Paris and London, and meeting such interesting people. So yeah, best part was really like creating from the ground up this business, and onboarding very talented people that I feel very happy and pleased to work with, honestly. And I've learned so much. It's like the last 2 years have been like a fintech MBA for me. I've learned everything. And I feel finally ready to like now conquer the world. So it was a very interesting 2 years.
Okay. And what about the worst? What's been the hardest part? Can't say
The hardest
regulation. Everybody says regulation.
Yeah, but I'm sorry to say, it's not that it's the worst, because I'm a former lawyer, so I kind of like it somehow. But I think just like the impact of regulation and regulators and all like this discussion on your pace. This is something that as an entrepreneur I had to adapt myself. I had to adapt myself because I was used to just go so fast, and all of a sudden I have to integrate these. I think it's the end goal is to protect users. So I fully understand and respect the reason behind, but adapting to this space was quite hard for me.
Yeah, they're a juggernaut. They don't make everybody happy. But you're right. Ultimately, the infrastructure of the UK and Europe. We have one of the best regulatory systems in the world, and it's in place to protect, to protect investors. So obviously, you've seen a lot of investors then through your community and your platform. From your point of view and from your experience, what's the one thing you think investors are doing wrong that you think they could be doing better to become better investors and make more of their money?
I think I would say, and that's more for less experienced investors. Don't get too scared when your portfolio goes down. Like people are selling sometimes too fast, and they should like sometimes just hold and wait. We live in a world where we are like people are too much in a rush. They want to see like returns like just 24 hours after they have just opened their account. So it's a long-term play, and if you're not ready for it, you should just pick ETF over like stocks. So yeah, I think like I've seen a lot of like people like coming, investing, losing, leaving. Just like wait, it's a long term. Don't go too fast.
Yeah. Okay. What's the biggest mistake you've made? It's always nice to hear, what, successful investors, what people can learn from your mistakes. What's the biggest investing mistake you've made, do you think? We'll ask for the best one in a minute, but
I think I think I've always been very much wrong with cryptocurrencies. I got there too late and sold too early. So what I just said didn't apply to myself. So I feel like I really missed this one, and I again and again, I've missed like almost every wave. So I think I'm like just break even on cryptos
yeah.
after like 4 years,
Do you
and
think
that's quite funny.
do you think that's a trait of being an entrepreneur rather than an investor? Is that you tend to, rather than investing in trends, try and build a product around them? I've seen quite a few people that I talk to, say the same thing, that they've missed bull runs.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually part of the reason why I was super excited about building shares, is because it's really the product I've been waiting for myself, because of the reason I mentioned. So yeah, totally right. I feel like I'm seeing myself as the first beneficiary of this product we're building here.
Can we see your portfolio on it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we'll go and have a look at that. So we'll ask for a book recommendation in a minute, because that's always interesting. But what's been your best investment, either in the markets or in general?
My best investment was a company, an AI company, because I also invest in startups as a business angel. I have about 30 different investment roughly. And the best one was a company named Hugging Faces. It's an amazing AI company that I invested like their very, very first round pre-seed, and now the company valuation is 4.5 billion, I guess.
Wow.
So really like killing it based in New York. So really, so far my best investment. And my favorite book, we're talking to maybe entrepreneurs, so I would say 0 to 1 of Peter Thiel. That's a must-have, and Peter Thiel being our lead investors, I think it's a good tribute to his fund and his track record.
Okay. Well, everybody in the sort of entrepreneur world knows Peter Thiel, but what about investors? Do you have if they're enjoying your community, but they want to delve a bit further into investing and managing their money, do you have a book recommendation for investors as well?
John Bogle. That's how I learned about ETF and passive investments. So the basic, I don't recall the name, but John Bogle is an amazing, he's the inventor of ETF. He was the founder of Vanguard. So I think it's a very safe book to read if you want to understand like the basics of like long-term investment.
Okay, excellent. Well, I mean, you can't argue with Vanguard's proposition. They sort of win on performance and price and coverage. And seem to get mentioned without even trying, which I suppose is a testament to them. But all right, well, excellent. Well, look, thank you very much for having a chat with us. We're looking forward to following shares and your journey. And if anyone, I'm just going to talk to some of your potential users now. If any of your users are listening to this, or you go on to use Shares.io, do come back to the Good Money Guide. We'll have our review up there shortly after we've given the platform a test, and we'd also like to hear your thoughts on Shares.io as well.